Okay, yes, I do have quite a bit of experience in training salesmen. I've probably spent about 700 to 800 hours in classroom situations taking training courses, and probably about 4,800 hours actually spending time one-on-one with salesmen during the days. So that's about 4,800 days actually. It's quite a long time. So hopefully I can impart some of what I've know to yourselves. It's not what we say so much as how we actually say it. I thought about this on the way here. Supposing my wife has bought a new dress and we're about to go out in the evening, she's put it on, and I say to her, "Gosh, you look nice in that dress, dear." Dear, horrible word, but you know, that's what you do, don't you? Okay, I've paid her a compliment and that's the end of it really, isn't it? But supposing I change one word, the word nice. You know, you look nice in that new dress. Supposing I put, you look delicious in that new dress. Now, the effect on you here has already demonstrated what one word, the right word, if you use words that can be tuned into emotions, the right emotions, of course, you're more likely to have success with selling. And simply the word delicious, it's a different word. It suggests fun, it suggests expectation, it's sensual. And at the end of the evening, well, who knows what would happen to me? But it just goes to show what one little thing can do. It alters the flavour of the conversation completely. And that's why you need to think. I wrote down a long time ago, selling is influencing someone's decision to buy in a genuine and honest way, which is likely to lead to a positive outcome for both of you. That's you and the customer prospect. It is a win-win situation. It has to be a win-win. It can't be anything else. If somebody loses, they ain't going to come back. If the salesman loses, if he loses too many times, he starts getting very negative about his work. So it's definitely a win-win situation you've got to go to. And from my point of view, so you know where I'm coming from, I'm not interested at all in monologues where someone rings you up and, yeah. Waste of time, total waste of time. I'm not interested in telling fibs. I'm not interested in applying techniques on people, which is what some people would want you to do. I'm definitely not interested in pressure selling, and I'm not interested in discounting. If you do any of those, you're in my bad box of they don't know how to sell. And probably all of us have done some of those. And New Zealand in particular is very, very fond of lowering its price, discounting. They do that because they don't know how to sell at the right price. And the first one at the top there is planning. Now, what I've discovered with training salesmen is nobody is really interested in learning about planning. So I'm going to make the assumption that most of you are the same, and I'm not going to talk about planning. So that's easy, isn't it? Nobody wants to be told how to plan their day. But what I can tell you is if you don't plan the work and work the plan, you're unlikely to succeed. You might be lucky. However, there is one thing that's very, very important in planning, and I've hinted at it already, and that is, what are you going to say to get past the secretary, the receptionist, the guard outside, on duty, security guard? There aren't many of them around here. The bigger organisations, the MDF, I think, have security guards. And what you need to do there is you need to think of something that you can say to that receptionist, that guard, that's simply enough, bear in mind this is a cold call, that is simple enough for him or her to ring up the man that you're hoping to see, make the right impression so that he will come out of his office, walk 50 yards, and maybe it's raining, to see a stranger he's never met, that's never even spoken to him and hasn't had the good manners to make an appointment. The first thing that you've got to do And you only have 30 seconds. That's what experience shows, that people lose. Well, they'll give you that much time. After that, they won't. You've got to say something that shows respect for their time. So you're not going to ask, how are things? How's sales? How's business? He's not going to talk to a stranger about that. Get real. And you've now wasted 5 seconds. You've got to show respect for time. You've got to demonstrate somehow a little bit of knowledge about the business and his industry and what part he plays. Is he a production manager? Is he an electronics man? Is he a communication man? Is he somebody to do with the cleaning and the management? They all have different ways, different things that would interest them according to their job type. You've got to be believable, or try and be anyway. You've got to appear to be competent and hopefully be competent. And you need to be enthusiastic. If I was going to be calling on a woodwork factory making furniture, for example, what I would do is I would think, okay, yeah, woodwork factories, they always have a lot of dust. Dust is a fire hazard. Okay, I could go in on that. Yeah, might think about that. I could go in on health grounds because you get nasal cancer these days from bringing wood flour, fine dust. What you need to do is to describe a need that you assume that that factory, that industry has. And once you get to know the types of companies, people that you call on, you will gradually, you'll quite quickly pick up the whole idea of what sort of people you're dealing with. I know that in a woodwork factory that makes furniture, they're going to have dust. I know it collects all over there, and it's a bit like a flour dust explosion. It explodes and the whole thing goes. It's a real serious threat. So I could go in on that. So what I would do is I would describe an assumed need in this first 30 seconds, and then I would describe a major benefit on one of our products or services, products in my case, that basically deals with this particular type of problem. So in a woodwork factory, I might go in and say, and I'm now talking to you, thank you for seeing me, and so on and so forth. I won't waste time by asking you a nice day and what lovely did I have to do? What a lovely office. You forget that. No one's interested in it. You come straight to the point. I've called on you today because one of the difficulties that a lot of woodwork factories have is dealing with the problem of dust, because if it builds up, it can be explosive. At the company that I work for, we've developed a way of dealing with that, taking the dust down from those overhead pipes and ducting without disrupting your production. Because normally they know that they've got to stop production, get the cleaners in and do it, and they've lost a day's work. Okay? So I've described the assumed need, and then I've said what we do as a company that can try and solve it. Now, if you think about it, at that moment, he knows that I know something about his industry. He's going to give me a bit more time. I bought myself probably another 3 or 4 minutes, just because I've said the right thing in the first 30 seconds. Does that make sense? Why do we ask questions? That is a question I want an answer. Why do we ask customers questions?
To ascertain the need.
Ascertain the need, yep. Anything else?
To show an interest in them.
Show an interest in them, yep.
Show that you're listening.
2, show that you're listening, yep.
Establishing a relationship.
Establishing a relationship, 4. That's 3 or 4, yep.
Check that they're the man.
Check that they're the man, yes, you can do that. Okay. Well, that's 3 or 4 answers we've got. I'm going to give you another 8. I'll read them out because I don't want to miss any. Uncover needs we had, that's the first one. You need to learn about your customer relationship. You need to, by asking questions, it shows concern. Doctors ask questions and they demonstrate concern for your health when they do it. Asking questions in a nice, friendly way, a mum to the little kid or the teacher to the young pupil, it demonstrates a great deal of concern. And I would like to think that my customers think that I'm concerned about them, so I ask questions. It also means that we mustn't assume. We don't want to fall in the trap of assuming we know why they want to do this, why they want to buy that. We should ask them, why on earth should we assume? So asking questions stops us falling into that trap. Asking questions shows a great deal of empathy. It's the relationship building. Asking questions actually shows that you that you want to understand what it is this particular client's problem might be. Asking questions says, look, I'd like to learn, I'd like to really understand. Asking questions does that. It also shows that you want to get it right. You want the right information. So asking questions does that. It doesn't. You don't need to label it, but when somebody asks a question, it's inherent. Oh, they're taking this seriously, this conversation. They actually want to know. They want to get it right. It also shows that you're willing to listen. Somebody said that one. Asking questions, by definition almost, means that you're going to get an answer. Someone's interested in my opinion. He really wants to, that's all part of asking questions. Then there's various skills to be used when you ask questions. You can ask questions to deliberately change the subject. If you're dealing with a talkative customer who won't shut up, you sometimes have to interrupt by asking a question and changing the subject as you go. So questions can be used, if you like, to control the conversation. I wouldn't normally do it with most cases, but if you have someone who is particularly talkative or someone who is totally indifferent to everything you're saying, you ask questions to prise them open and to shut them down. That's what you can do with questions. So questionings are absolutely vital. If you can't develop the skill of asking good questions, you are not going to be very successful in selling. That's not to say you won't have some luck, and it's not to say you won't have sales, but if you want to be good, that's a different matter. You've got to develop the questioning skills. It was Rudyard Kipling who actually wrote, he said in The Tale of the Elephant's Child in 1902, "I keep 6 honest serving men, they taught me all I knew. Their names were what and why and when and how and where and who." In practice, there's another good way of asking a question. Tell me. It's usually followed by tell me who, tell me what, tell me, but it's a nice little introduction so that you don't always appear as a detective. Where were you on the night? You can come across as being an investigative detective if you ask questions too bluntly. So tell me, what were you doing that evening? Much, much nicer. You can use the intonation of the voice and so on. And of course, the did use, the do use, the are use, the will use, the does it work, the closed questions. And most people are taught not to use too many closed questions, and I would subscribe to that. But when you're dealing with difficult customers, difficult clients who really don't want to talk, you've really got to use closed questions to prise them open. If I ask somebody, well, how does this work? Well, it just manages. Well, who does this? Oh, anyone who's around. And how often does this happen? Well, now and then. I'm just getting nowhere. So at that point, you would have to switch to a closed question where you must give a yes or no answer. Has it broken down this week? Yes or no. You'll ask him another closed question, which he has to answer. After he's answered 2, maybe 3 closed questions, I would automatically switch to an open question, because he's at least starting to have a two-way communication. So that's when I would switch to an open question and try and get the information that I'm looking for. But you have to use closed questions in quite a tactful way, to make progress. Don't like the idea of controlling conversations, but that's actually what most very good salesmen do, and you haven't a clue it's happening. But there we go. What we have got to do is to work out what are the benefits that we need to talk to the prospect, the customer, about, so that we're talking about things that he actually or she actually wants. Because every product has got literally dozens of features, dozens of them. Something as complex as a car will probably have 8,000 or 9,000 different features. If you think of the number of components, every one is a size, a specification, a thickness, a material. You just go on and on and on. It's probably nearer 20,000. So we need to work out which are the right features and the right benefits. This poses a problem for those of you that are selling services. Because if you're selling a physical product, you can touch it, you can hold it, you can take it in, you can demonstrate it, you can handle it, you can feel the quality, and you can look at the reflections and all those sorts of things. When you're selling a service, that's far harder because you haven't got anything tangible that you can do. But nevertheless, it's benefits that people buy. So that is when, if you go back to the planning, that's when you really need to make sure, more than ever, that you have, if you like, samples of work, samples of contract. You might have testimonials, you might have photographs, you might have any certificates, or what's the other word, qualifications, and you might want to be able to demonstrate that you actually have been operating locally for so many years, or you deal locally with so many different types of businesses. And what's the significance of that? And the answer is, if you've been around a while and you can demonstrate that, because let's face it, you haven't got a product, you've got a service. There's a great deal of security for that customer, knowing that they're dealing with someone who is well known in the area. It's security for their money. They're placing something of their personal life or their business life in your hands. They don't want risk, so they would want that reassurance. If you don't talk about benefits, what's going to happen? There's a box. It's heavy. That's all right, it's used to that. It's quite heavy. Something in it. So, it will give me, say, what, $342? No? No takers? No, not at the back? Not the cameraman? No, no takers? How sad. It's worth about $30,000. It's a meteorite. Has collectible value, rarity value, has monetary value. Nobody would even buy it for $342. You could have earned more money in a few seconds than any other time in your life, and you didn't bother. Well, actually, it's not your fault. If I was selling it, I should have told you something about it. And you're thinking, well, do real salesmen do that? Do salesmen really go about and not talk about their product and expect things to happen? So what we've got to do is look for benefits, ask questions, look for benefits. And when anybody buys the vast majority of things that you're likely to buy for your business or for your own home, you will usually be looking at 2, 3, or maybe 4 particular benefits. The car I mentioned has probably got 20,000 benefits. It's got 20,000 features, and every one of those has got at least 1 and maybe 2 or 3 benefits. But we don't make decisions based on, yes, I can tick the box 20,000 times. Now what I want in the car, I like this model because it's reliable. I like this because it's a nice, powerful engine and I want to tow my car. No, you don't. You want to tow my boat. So, yeah, okay, so I like that make and I want it big and powerful. Oh, yeah, I do want some safety features. Modern cars, yeah, I want that. And that's how you choose your car. Oh, colour might be important. Yep, I wanted the blue one. And that's really how you make the decision to buy most of the things you do. If it's a complex thing, like a car, it'll probably be about 4. If it's a simpler thing, like a piece of furniture for your living room, a coffee table, it's, well, I like that. Looks well made. Yep, we'll have that one. Simple item, couple $100, only 2 benefits. And that's important because if every product has got dozens and dozens of benefits, if you don't ask questions, you'll never find the right ones that are going to turn the prospect on. And if you start talking about benefits that they're not interested in, they're going to switch off. Does that make sense? Like a magician around here. Right, what's that? It's a what? Clothes basket, laundry basket. That's exactly what it is. Okay, give me some features. It's green, which means that it's not going to stand out with the washing when a visitor comes in your room, eh? Okay. It's lightweight, which means that it's going to be easy to use, can carry upstairs. Yep.
Airy.
It's airy. By airy, you're referring to this? Mm-hmm. Yep, that's good. What do you think they do? Transparent. Make it so you can see through. So if you have a green sock there, you can match it up with a green sock there. Yep, that's correct. It also means that any damp clothes the air can still circulate. I'm looking at this because I've got quite a lot here. And of course it cuts down the weight as well. So it's lighter weight, it's cheaper to make as well because it uses less plastic. Anything else?
Stackable, you can put one inside the other.
Yes, stackable, which means that it saves space for you wherever you put them. My wife has two. Well, she has one at the moment. And she was looking for this one this afternoon. Oh, I've got that one, dear. Yep, next.
Sturdy handles.
Sturdy handles. Yes, nice sturdy handles, which means that it's easy and comfortable and safe to hold.
It's a good size.
It's a good size, which means that we can put a lot of stuff in there, clothes and pegs and things.
Washable.
It's washable. It's nice smooth surface, which is easy washable, so it can be kept clean. So that means that you don't get dirt back onto your washing after you've laundered it.
You can hook it up, put it on the wall.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that one. Yep. Lots of holes there to put a hook on, which means that it stores off the floor, which means that you're not going to fall over on it. Yep.
You can leave it outside. If you hang up your clothes on the line, you can leave that airy for when you don't get back in.
Yep, it's certainly not going to rot, is it? Yes?
Multi-purpose.
Multi-purpose, yeah, you could put all sorts of things in here. It doesn't have to be that, yep, which really means that you only have to buy two and you can use it for a dozen different things. The handles are built in, which means that they're not going to get knocked off. It's got a very wide lip. That has a great advantage because it means that you can carry it around on one hip because the lip is so wide it hooks there. It's got a nice big flat round surface here. It's just a little basket, plastic basket. Now you start looking at the products, services that you sell and wonder how many features you've got and how many benefits you've got. And I would ask, how many do you mention at the right time to your prospects and customers? So the real question is, nobody buys the basket because it's got a hole for a handle. Nobody buys it because it's plastic. They buy it because it's plastic, because it won't rot, and because it's lightweight, and because it's strong. Three benefits straight away just from the plastic. We're probably up to 40-odd benefits if you start adding them up. So the question is, if we use the right questions, we can find out what's needed. If we know what product or service is needed, we can think about our matching, the good word, that matching benefits that will satisfy their requirements. Because it's no good talking about benefits that they're not interested in. So the real question now, and this is the biggest thing that you're going to learn tonight, hopefully, how can you be sure that when you're talking about your own business, your own products, your own services that you have, how can you be sure 100% of the time that you talk about the benefit and not the feature? People buy benefits. You're not going to guess, so I'm going to tell you. It's 3 little words. The words that I was using to link feature to benefit. That's what people buy. That's why it's important. Benefit. 3 words.
It's easy to.
Which, getting it, which means that. You can use that 30 times in a conversation in 5 minutes. almost certainly the person you're talking to will not realise. They will not. None of you here did, and this is 30 of you. I used it about 15 times. It's made of plastic, which means that it's lightweight. It's made of plastic, which means that it's strong. Every one of them has which means that in it. You can use it ad infinitum. People will not notice. Normally, if you say use a particular phrase, I don't want to sound like a parrot, I want to be me. But that, they don't pick up, and it guarantees you talk about the benefit. You've got to say what the benefit is to complete the sentence. Investment. I'll be very brief about this. I won't spend much time on that. It's another day in a course. Each of those is one day. I'll give you a couple of little tips as to how to explain, I won't say justify, but how to express the cost or the benefit in money of the product that you're selling. And you're all good at maths, I'm sure. The four main mathematical signs are the clue. Whenever you want to talk about money, think in terms of, well, it's a cost, yeah. Car, yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money. First thing you need to do is divide the cost by the lifetime or the expected life of the item, the car. If the car's going to last 10 years, the car that's costing 30,000 is only 3,000 a year. So bring it down to a smaller and lower level. Several of the adverts on TV do it, and that's because it's far more acceptable to spend $1.50 a day than $2,500 next month. The other thing that you need to do when you're dividing is remember that most of you will have competition for your own businesses. You don't have to explain, if you're at the higher end of the price, you don't have to explain away the price of your product. You only have to explain away the difference between your price and the average below it. So, for example, if you're going to buy a Suzuki Swift, I don't know what they cost, $17,500 with a bit of discount, no doubt. That works out over 5 years. You might want to keep a car 5 years. It's not unreasonable. That works out at, $3,500 a year, $10 a day. So that's the cost of the car. It's a lot easier to take in than $17,500. But then the customer is also thinking, well, I might buy a Toyota, the little Toyota. I can't remember what it is, but it's $20,000. Well, you haven't got to start dividing 20,000. If you're selling the Toyota and you know that they're thinking of a cheaper one, all you need to do is to look at the difference between the Toyota at 20 and the Suzuki Swift at 17.5. So it's only an extra 2,500 that you have to explain away because they're going to spend 17.5 anyway. That's why they're looking for a car. So look at the difference between yours and what it is. And then strange things happen. If it's over 5 years, the difference is $2,500 between those two cars. Over 5 years, that's $500 a year. It's $1.50. $1.50 to be able to drive the reliable Toyota with all that goes with that name, and compared to the Suzuki Swift where you bash your bumper and it's $5,000 to replace. It's that sort of thing. So explain the difference. When you're multiplying, if you're selling a product or service that helps the other person, perhaps they're manufacturing something and you can sell them a service or a product that allows them to manufacture faster. Instead of making 50 things an hour, they can now make 60 an hour because you've introduced a technique or something that allows them to do it quicker. Start multiplying up what those extra 10 mean. Over a month, over a year, over the lifetime of your product, and you'll find that the cost of whatever it was is that big, and the savings are usually that big. All you need to do is to turn it around and multiply the savings in their favour. The plus and the minus are very straightforward. Plus is where you basically, when you're explaining the cost, well, you quite rightly, you mentioned the price, you're a bit concerned. Let me just explain. What we've agreed is that you're after this and that and efficiency, and that's what this car does, very efficient, as we were talking about. We've agreed that we get this, and we get this, and we get this. So what I'm doing is I'm adding up at the end, towards the end of the conversation, all of the good things that we've agreed on. So we're adding them up. And the minus is if they're serious about buying something along the competition's line. If you're buying cheap, what you don't get is you don't get this, and you don't get this, and you don't get this, and you're taking things away from their expectation. Ho-ho. The first thing you need to know about closing, asking for the order, is, God, you've got to do it. You really have got to do it. And the biggest mistake that almost every salesman makes is they won't ask for the order. And why? They don't want the rejection of no. It's like when the boys in the room were 15, they don't want to walk across the dance floor and ask for the girl for the director. They might say, no, how am I going to feel that small, so I won't go. I won't dance and I won't see her and I won't ever meet her again. But that's what the effect of rejection does. And you get a lot of no's in selling if you're doing it day in, day out. Otherwise you'd be a multi-millionaire, top salesman all the time. You get a lot of no's. It's the fear of rejection, but you must ask. The customer deserves to be asked. That's the point. He's given you his time. He may have had 2 or 3 meetings with you. It may be a big investment. He deserves to be asked just because of the time that he has given you when he could have given it to somebody else. And as probably we all know, when we finally decide to buy anything for ourselves, especially a big ticket item, it's a kind of nice feeling to be able to say, yep, I'll have that. Makes you feel, just for a few seconds, sort of powerful and good inside. Why on earth do you want to deprive your own potential customers of that good feeling? You don't. Ask. The question is, how, and things like that. If you think about it, it is a logical conclusion to a conversation. And that's what selling is. It's a conversation between 2 people. Somebody wants to buy something and somebody wants to sell it. What could be, let's get together. It's a very logical thing to happen. But the real question is how? Is there a particular formula or a different way of actually asking for the order? Well, the logical way is to and I mentioned there's usually 2, 3, or maybe 4 benefits that they're really keen on in whatever it is you're selling. Maybe the prompt delivery, it may be the fact that you have a wider range of quantities. Everybody else says you've got to buy 250 and you might do them in 50s or 100s, you don't know. You've got to summarise what it is that we have agreed on in terms of the benefits that you really want. What we've seen, what we've agreed is that you're after this, and that's good, and we've got that, and the benefit here, that's what we're after. So you just summarise all the good points that they've agreed to, that's what they want, and you've introduced at the right time earlier, benefits. You just summarise them. And then you simply ask, would you like to go ahead? Now, we all have different phrases for that. It took me about 4 years to come up with that. I used to have... We'd go back to the office and we'd sit down and I'd write out a quote, which was always on an order form in case he wanted to sign it. Always. Your pen or mine? Oh, I'm not ready yet. And we all have that. But that was a good way, your pen or mine. Okay, come on then. And they do it. It's surprising. But you've got to ask. So a logical way is to summarise all the good things that they're after, that you can provide, and then ask, would you like to go ahead? There are other ways. Sorry, there's one most important thing about that. If you're going to go ask, would you like to go ahead? So, would you like to go ahead? Well, that's about 10 seconds. And when you ask that question, that's the longest 10 seconds of the week. 1 second seems like 5, 5 seconds seems like 25. It really, really does. What you must do, there is no ifs and buts. You ask the question, would you like to go ahead? Shut up. Absolutely shut up. Don't say a single word. You wait. And if it takes 20 seconds, you wait. And you keep waiting. And you feel very, very uncomfortable. But if you want to be successful, you wait. And what will usually happen is, the longer it goes on, the more likely it is they'll say, oh, okay, go on then. If there's a problem that they have somewhere along the line, they'll tell you pretty quick. So the longer it goes on, the more in favour it is for you. So wait. There are other ways of closing. It's a bit vague. Alternative close, assumptive close. It's would you like it in blue or grey? You're assuming they're going to have it and you're giving them an alternative choice. Would you like delivery Wednesday or Thursday? You could assume on its own, can we deliver Monday? You simply assume they're going to do it. Nothing wrong with that, because they're going to say no if they mean no. But it's an assumptive close. So, when do you close? Well, the answer to that is early and often. The earlier and often, without being ridiculous about it, is usually better. If you close fairly early, you think, well, I haven't done that, I haven't told him about this, haven't told him about that, but he does like this and that, why don't I ask him if he wants to buy it? You'll save yourself and him or her an awful lot of time if they then say yes. And you won't talk yourself out of a sale because they've said yes, you've signed it, and you're on your way. So asking quite frequently is not a bad philosophy. The questions then is, when do you actually ask? Well, it's when you've agreed that there is a benefit that you have that they want. That's a good time to ask. Whenever you get a buying signal is a good time to ask. A buying signal is whenever they say something positive about your product service. Oh, I quite like that, if you were talking about whatever it was. Oh, that's good, that's interesting. Yeah, we'd use that. That's a buying signal. Ask there and then, would you like to go ahead? Now, I wouldn't usually do that after 30 seconds, don't get me wrong, but after 2 or 3 minutes, I would most certainly be picking them up on that, and I would ask. And the other reason why you need to ask early and often is there's no point waiting till the end of another 10 minutes of talking and talking, which is what tends to happen, and you talk yourself out of a sale, and then you ask and they say no. If you'd asked them earlier and they'd said no, you could have said, yeah, I can see there's a lot to think about. Do you mind if I ask what's troubling you? I like that phrase, what's troubling you? You found out earlier that there's something on the back of their mind that you haven't dealt with, and they're now about to tell you. Better to find that out early so you can deal with it than find out later when, oh look, no, I didn't really like that, but I've got to go now. Got to go to the pub to meet a friend. Oh, bloody hell, can't you deal with me first? And lastly, the thing that you've really got to do is once you've got the order in your hand, thank them. Thank them for the order. It's a privilege that they have endowed you with to give them their business. It's their money that they've earned. They're giving it to you. Yes, they're getting something in return, but that's no excuse not to thank them. I think I should sit down now.